Only 13 convertible Hemi Cudas were built in 1971, and today they're worth more than most homes. These cars are nearly extinct. The Plymouth Hemi Cuda stands as one of the most powerful and rare muscle cars ever made. Tracking down the remaining Hemi Cudas has been a challenge, with some hidden in dusty garages and barns for years. Every discovery is a moment straight out of a movie, and once that 425 horsepower engine roars to life, it's clear why this car still captures so much attention. There's a reason collectors have been chasing it for decades. The birth of a legend, how Plymouth created the ultimate underdog. Most people don't realize that Plymouth was fighting for its very survival in the muscle car wars of the 1960s. While Pontiac's GTO was burning up the streets and Ford's Mustang was capturing America's imagination, Plymouth was desperately trying to find its footing in a rapidly evolving marketplace. The company that would eventually create the most fearsome muscle car in history was actually on the ropes when they made their boldest move ever. In 1964, Plymouth executives watched in horror as competing muscle cars dominated the market. Pontiac had essentially created the muscle car segment with their GTO, while Ford's Mustang defined an entirely new category. Plymouth responded with the Barracuda, a modified Valiant compact with a fastback roofline that actually preceded the Mustang by 2 weeks. Despite this head start, Ford sold over 400,000 Mustangs in the first year, compared to Plymouth's mere 23,443 Barracudas, with customers largely dismissing what appeared to be an economy car with an oversized rear window. Plymouth continued struggling against better-resourced competitors at Ford and GM. Their second-generation Barracuda in 1967 improved, but still failed to resonate with buyers. By 1968, with muscle car mania peaking, Plymouth executives recognized their survival depended on something revolutionary. Facing extinction in a market dominated by giants, Plymouth risked everything on a revolutionary new platform. Rather than another incremental redesign, they committed to developing the E-body platform with a clear, ambitious goal: build the most aggressive, powerful production car America had ever seen. The engineering challenges were formidable. Fitting the massive 426 Hemi engine into the compact E-body was like forcing an elephant into a phone booth. The engine weighed nearly 800 pounds and generated forces that threatened to twist the entire chassis. Engineers completely redesigned the front suspension and added extensive structural reinforcements throughout the car. Chrysler executives nearly terminated the project multiple times as cost mounted and production timelines slipped. The Mammoth Hemi created enormous heat in the confined engine bay, causing persistent overheating issues. Weight distribution presented another challenge. With tremendous mass over the front wheels, early prototypes proved dangerously unstable at high speeds. The engineering team worked tirelessly, testing countless solutions until they achieved the right balance. The result? Automotive magic. The 1970 Plymouth Hemi Cuda emerged as an entirely different species of muscle car. With 425 horsepower unleashing quarter-mile runs of 13.1 seconds at 107 miles per hour, it delivered performance almost unbelievable for a factory-stock production car. Its styling matched its performance, featuring the menacing shaker hood scoop that physically vibrated with the engine's power, bold graphics, and a wide stance that exuded speed even when stationary. Hot Rod magazine called it the most exotic production car Detroit has ever produced, while Car Life described it as brutal acceleration, unmatched by anything in its class. Raw power unleashed inside the revolutionary 426 Hemi engine. That brutal acceleration didn't happen by accident. It came from an engine so dominant that NASCAR actually banned it from competition. The 426 Hemi that powered the Cuda was an engineering monster that completely rewrote the rules of street performance. When NASCAR officials saw this beast sweep the top 3 positions at the 1964 Daytona 500, they did something unprecedented. They essentially told Chrysler, that's too much power for one manufacturer to have. The competition couldn't keep up, so instead of building better engines, they begged racing officials to outlaw it. The 426 Hemi earned its elephant engine nickname through sheer size and thunderous power. Weighing 843 pounds, heavier than 4 average adult men, this massive power plant roared to life like a caged beast breaking free. It represented a fundamental rethinking of how to extract maximum performance from internal combustion. The magic of the Hemi came from its revolutionary combustion chamber design. While most engines of the era used wedge-shaped chambers, Chrysler's engineers went with hemispherical chambers, shaped like half a sphere. This design allowed for larger valves positioned at optimal angles and created much better airflow through the engine. The spark plug sat right in the center of the chamber, creating a stronger, more efficient flame front during combustion. This engineering brilliance translated directly into the raw, dominating performance that made the Hemi legendary both on tracks and streets. When Chrysler decided to put this race-bred monster into production cars, they created an engineering nightmare for themselves. The street version featured a lower compression ratio of 10.25 to 1, instead of the race engine's 12.5 to 1, and milder intake and exhaust manifolds. But it still generated forces that would tear apart a standard production car. Plymouth had to completely rethink the Cuda structure to handle this beast. They added special subframe connectors, suspension reinforcements, and chassis bracing to keep the car from twisting apart under acceleration. The torsional forces generated by 490 pound-feet of torque required a total redesign of key structural components. The 426 Hemi initially wasn't even allowed on public roads. It was created purely for dominating NASCAR, and only after the racing ban did Chrysler develop the Street Hemi that debuted in 1966. Buying a Cuda with a Hemi option meant paying nearly 30% more than the base price. Even more incredible is that the official 425 horsepower rating was almost certainly underreported. Dynamometer test showed figures closer to 470 horsepower. Some automotive historians believe insurance concerns led manufacturers to report lower numbers to prevent higher premiums for buyers. The results spoke for themselves. The Hemi Cuda could blast from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 5.8 seconds, absolutely earth-shattering in 1970. This was achieved without computer controls, fuel injection, or any modern performance technology, just raw mechanical engineering excellence and cubic inches of displacement. From street legend to million-dollar icon, the Cudas fall and rise. While those quarter-mile times impressed gearheads across America, the Hemi Cuda's reign as king of the streets was destined to be shockingly brief. Imagine owning the ultimate muscle car just as the government declared war on horsepower and gas prices tripled overnight. This perfect storm created one of history's most dramatic automotive rise and fall stories. The glory days barely lasted a full model cycle. By 1971, new emissions regulations were already tightening their grip around the Hemi's throat. Engineers who'd once focused purely on performance now faced the impossible task of making this gas-guzzling beast comply with strict pollution standards. The 426 Hemi, that magnificent masterpiece of American engineering, disappeared after the 1971 model year, marking the beginning of the end. The 1973 oil crisis hit America like a sledgehammer, turning fuel economy into the new automotive priority overnight. A car struggling to reach double-digit MPG numbers became financial suicide to own. The market collapsed completely. Dealerships couldn't give these cars away, as consumers frantically traded muscle cars for anything that sipped fuel. Plymouth kept the Cuda nameplate limping along until 1974, but as a shadow of its former self. The mighty Hemi vanished, replaced by detuned engines prioritizing emissions over performance. These watered-down versions suffered further as mandatory safety features added weight. The fall was brutal. These once-coveted machines became automotive pariahs, abandoned in back lots, neglected in garages, or sent to junkyards. Through the late 70s and 80s, you could pick up a Hemi Cuda for practically nothing. Cars that had cost $5,000 new changed hands for similar prices a decade later, with no adjustment for inflation. For nearly 2 decades, the Hemi Cuda existed in automotive purgatory. But beneath the surface, something significant was brewing in American car culture. As baby boomers reached their peak earning years in the 1990s, nostalgia became a powerful force. The generation that had lusted after these cars in youth suddenly had disposable income and a burning desire to recapture these symbols of automotive freedom. They began hunting for the forbidden fruits of their younger days. What these newly wealthy collectors discovered shocked them. Hardly any Hemi Cudas had survived. Production numbers were minuscule, just 652 examples in 1970 and an astonishingly tiny 115 in 1971. Many had been wrecked, scrapped, or modified beyond recognition. The 1971 models became especially coveted. This final year for the legendary 426 Hemi featured distinctive styling elements. The only year for quad headlights and those fender gills, making the Cuda instantly recognizable. The side billboard decals with engine callouts became iconic design elements. Like a phoenix rising from automotive ashes, the Hemi Cuda transformed from forgotten relic to treasured artifact. The perfect collision of extreme rarity, nostalgic desire, and historical significance created an auction frenzy. Prices began climbing in the late 1990s, reaching $250,000 by 2002 and multiplying 14 times to over $3.5 million by 2014. And just like that, the Barracuda's incredible run ended in 1974, a direct casualty of the 1973 energy crisis. With sky-high fuel prices and tough new emissions regulations, the thirsty muscle cars quickly fell out of favor. The story continued, however. Chrysler's repeated attempts to revive the legend over the decades serve as a testament to the Barracuda's enduring allure. The Cuda's legacy thrives through pop culture appearances like its memorable role in Nash Bridges, keeping the legend alive for new generations. In a world now built for efficiency, the Hemi Cuda remains a symbol of what it means to unleash raw, untamed power.